On August 1st at 2:31 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be having our full moon in the sign of Aquarius. Some of the key words for Aquarius could be freedom, rebelliousness, detachment. It's very much associated with advancements, progressiveness, technology. It's future-oriented. It's even associated with astrology. And it can also be associated with unexpected or sudden change. And it's also associated with genius. So we can very much have a difficult time staying in the moment when we are under this Aquarius energy, as it is very future-oriented. And Aquarius energy is oftentimes better in groups as opposed to one-on-one relationships. Now I want to talk a little bit about the Aquarius symbol, which is the water bearer. This leads a lot of people to think that Aquarius is a water sign, and it's definitely not. It really couldn't be further from the case. And the water that is actually alchemized and therefore removed of any emotional significance. And therefore this water can be brought to all of humanity, dispersed to all of the people, because it is therefore detached of this emotion and useful to nurture everyone. And this pulls in the humanitarian energy as well for the Aquarius sign. It's very much about helping, serving, and about groups. The millennial generation actually has an interesting aspect with Uranus, which is where Uranus is conjunct Neptune. So if you're a millennial, you can look at your chart, you can find that energy and see where it plays out for you. But this very much makes the millennial generation innovative as well as visionary. And if you look at some of the social media platforms and things that we can do with social media, thanks to this generation, you can really see a lot of that Aquarius energy play out, especially in regards to the Neptune energy that allows them to really see this big picture. At the time of this full moon, as always happens with a full moon, the moon and the sun are going to be opposite one another. The sun is in the sign of Leo at 9 degrees. The moon is in the sign of Aquarius, opposite it at 9 degrees. And the sun here very much represents where we are attached to ourselves. We're very self-motivated and motivated in general in regards to receiving attention, accolades for our personal accomplishments. And in Leo, we're less service-oriented than we are in Aquarius. We're more self-oriented. And when we have this opposition that's created with the full moon, the moon in Aquarius is asking us to step away from that dynamic of the Leo, self-interest, and start to reflect a little bit about how we can be more group-oriented at this time, how we can be more other-oriented, how we can look to helping the group, helping humans in general, helping advance us all rather than looking at our self-interests. So some questions that you could consider at this time would be, where do I need to detach and let go? Where have I over-invested? And in particular to the self, where am I over-invested in my own goals and interests? Where have I been focused on my own needs too much? Where can I focus on others at this time? This energy is generally very beneficial to Aries, Geminis, Leos, Sagittariuses, and of course Aquarius. So at this time, if you're one of those signs, you might find that this really lights you up. You have a lot of ideas coming through. You're open to a lot of new information. Now I'd like to go into some of the big aspects happening at the time of this full moon. There's a lot of relationship reflection that's going to be going on at this time. We do have Venus retrograde. I've already done a podcast on that I will link below. I'll talk a little bit about this in reference to the full moon. However, we also do have the South Node that's moved into Libra, and that is very relationship oriented, but we are looking with that energy at things in regards to relationships that we are leaving behind. Things that represent patterns, and I've already spoken about some of the codependency ways of being, things like that where we're people pleasers, that it's time to leave behind so that we can move forward towards that North Node in Aries energy. So some questions that you can ask yourself at this time are, where have I tried to be there for everyone? Or where have I tried to be everything for everyone? Rather than connecting to your more like one-on-one relationships, your personal relationships. Aquarius energy can sometimes have a difficult time with that. These are also really good questions to consider if you have a South Node in Aquarius, meaning a past lifetime where you had a lot of Aquarius energy and you really mastered that Aquarius energy, so that in this lifetime you're actually moving more towards that Leo energy, and that would be having the ability to have these more one-on-one relationships rather than just relating to larger groups and being more group oriented at this time. When we have too much of the Aquarius energy going on, we can be a little bit too focused on, you know, getting everybody's needs met, not getting our own, and not focused on our significant relationships that do require our one-on-one attention. Another thing to be aware of is our relationship with technology. This is maybe where technology may really flow for you, and you might find things are working great and you're not having anything glitchy going on, but it's also a really great time to assess our relationship and our addictions to technology. We can become way too technology dependent, and in fact we are in the age of Aquarius now, so technology, as you can look around and see, is really coming online. There's a lot of AI technology that has just burst forth in the last few months, it seems, and if you've become overly reliant on technology or those kinds of things, it's good to have more balance, put some more balance in, make sure you're also have people in your life, you're not just peopling through a screen and you know, calling those your major relationships. Make sure you have balance in regards to the technology that you're using at this time. You're not being too screen reliant. And maybe ask yourself the question, is it difficult to get close to people? How am I doing in regards to that? That's a great Aquarius moon question to ask as well. Now, I've already spoken about the YOD that is being set up between Venus and the base of being Pluto and Neptune. If you want more information on that and what a YOD is, please definitely check out my Venus retrograde podcast that I will link below. But just to kind of go into some of these topics in regards to this full moon, because that YOD is still happening, and in fact any planet that goes through the sign of Leo, which is where Venus is right now, is going to set up into this YOD with Pluto and Neptune, because Pluto and Neptune have had this ongoing relationship with each other that's, because they're slower moving planets, is going to remain. And so any planet that goes in the same direction that Venus is going to be a part of this YOD as well, including the Sun. So this is something we're really going to want to have a thorough understanding of. What this particular YOD with Venus at the apex is asking us to consider is, what old patterns in relationships are we ready to release at this time? So Pluto is going to definitely be bringing up a lot of patterns for us to see that we may have been blind to them because they're in the subconscious level. And Neptune is going to bring up karmic patterns. These are things that could be soul contracts. These are things that we could have experienced and gone through for multiple lifetimes that at this time are ready to be, we're ready to be finished with them. And these nuances will come up especially because we do have Venus in retrograde. So what old patterns and relationships are we ready to release? What's coming up at this time that you may be experiencing that you're like, I'm done with this. What have we potentially done for lifetimes that are surfacing at this time? And you can even think back to maybe patterns that are showing up in your life that your mother, grandmother, great-grandmother has also experienced. And this is a time we can release contracts that no longer serve us. So we're working through this energy, and we're also working with the South Node in Libra again to release our people-pleasing ways and ways that we've put others before us to our own detriment, and where we are not letting ourselves shine due to potential excuses that we've made, old patterns where we're not ready to shine. We may doubt our ability to shine. Venus in Leo is all about that. And what patterns have stood in our way? What patterns have stopped us from stepping into our joy and our self-fulfillment that we're here to have? Another great question would be about what stories are we carrying around that may have come from past lifetimes. We may have inherited them from our ancestors that are keeping us from truly receiving love, from keeping our hearts open. And a practice that you can consider at this time is when some of this comes up during the next month, potentially while Venus is in retrograde, focus on, instead of the old patterns, which may have been shutting down and maybe saying, okay, I'm done with relationships, this isn't working, but maybe keeping the heart open. How can you keep your heart open at this time? How can you allow your love to go to the edges and corners and spaces that you have shut down in previous times and previous experiences? At this time, we have a T-square with Jupiter and the Sun and Moon. And so Jupiter is squaring both the Sun and the Moon. And this square with Jupiter is actually the messages, information, or upgrades that we could be receiving at this time from our higher selves. It's also a message with Jupiter being in the sign of Taurus to keep it simple. And to realize that we are the co-conspirators in this process of life, that we're together with this process of life. It's not against us. We're working with it to create and to manifest. And all things that happen are invitations to this space. So when things do come up and we are practicing keeping our heart open, that is such a great way of participating in this co-creation energy, that we are working with life. Life is working with us. And this is what this message is saying, is that it's all okay. It's all here for you. It's an invitation to keep the heart open and to allow in these messages and the support to do so that we will get at this time from Jupiter. So don't be afraid to go within, to feel the feelings that come up, the difficult feelings especially. Those are keys to our expansion. So when we allow those things to be felt, when we allow ourselves to experience these things, that is actually us saying yes to life, because we see that life is trying to bless us, help us. It's all working together for our greater good when we actually choose, rather than to choose to shut down. We choose these feelings, we open up, and we expand. So make time during this full moon to contemplate what is coming up and to tune into that inner wisdom that's coming through. Another aspect that we have going on in this chart is a fixed minor trine. This involves Neptune at the apex, and it is sextiling Pluto and Uranus. So this is where we're being made aware of these past patterns and having this new insight that's coming through in Uranus. So Uranus is going to bring in the new. It's going to bring in some new energy. It's going to bring in ways in which we're ready to innovate, ways we're going to understand and know that we can move forward. New ideas, new inspiration, a new plan for the future. So we're using this past information, we're using lessons learned and what comes up from the deep subconscious levels to be reworked so that we can use this Uranus energy to move forward. We also have Mars trining with Jupiter. So Jupiter is getting a lot of play in this chart. Uranus is getting a lot of play in this chart. And with Mars trining Jupiter, this is where we want to fight or stand up for our beliefs. And it's potentially where we want to take action towards what we believe in. It's not the energy of sitting on the sidelines and waiting for someone else to take action. It's where we really take the bull by the horns and we take action. And it also could be action that is service, because Mars is in the sign of Virgo, which is very service-oriented. It could be very humanitarian at this time, especially with the Aquarius full moon. A good question to ask in this energy is, how can we be of service to others at this time and put our energy towards helping others? We have Venus in this chart squaring Uranus, and this brings up our values and what needs to shift at this time. Uranus has been in the sign of Taurus already, kind of making things that would otherwise be a comfort zone uncomfortable for us, because it's requiring a shift, because it is requiring for us to up level. And with this square to Venus, it's bringing in more of the energy around our values, potentially around relationships, and what needs to shift to come more in line with our truth, our true values, what we truly want at this time. A good question that you can ask with this Venus square Uranus is, where have I gotten stagnant? Especially in regards to the Venus topics, which would be relationships, which would be values, and which also could be finances. We also have Mercury opposing Saturn exact in this chart. This is going to be a very felt dynamic. It could very much be a conflict. It could very much be an actual person that is standing in your way of problem solving, getting to a solution, getting something figured out, some kind of an obstacle. It could also be your own negative thinking or worry or way of spinning out on things rather than actually sorting through it properly. So just be aware of that energy. Thank you so much for joining me for this full moon in Aquarius video. I will have a download available to my subscribers that will feature all of the journal prompts from this video, plus more, to help you to reflect upon the energies of this Aquarius full moon. And it will also have my notes highlighting the major themes for this full moon, and it will also have a ceremony that you can use for this full moon time, and it will be adapted to the energies around the Aquarius full moon. So I hope that you will enjoy that gift. And if you would like to be a paid subscriber to my Substack account, it is only $5 a month. Thank you again for joining me. I'll be back with your weekly overview every Monday. Take care.